On today's show, the Ottawa Senators are back in the win column. The point streak is now at 5 games, and one young player's development is a big reason why.
And with the Olympic trade freeze coming up, should Steve Staios make a move or stay steady?
This is Breakout, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Ross Levitan alongside Brandon Piller. Today is Wednesday, January 21st, and Pillsy, a win feels oh so good when you look around the league. Ottawa, some favorable out-of-town results the last couple of days, and they're slowly but surely getting the points they need to get back in the race.
Especially a regulation win, Ross. Like this one didn't go to OT. You didn't sacrifice 1 point to a team that was identical in records with you. The Ottawa Senators now with 53 points. And before this game, Ross, the Sens were 6 points out of a wild card spot. Now 5 points. Seems like a minor victory, but it's all about stacking up these little minor victories and making your way, inching your way closer and closer to playoff contention.
And that's 5 points back with a game in hand over the Boston Bruins. The one problem with Boston, though, is you've already done your work against them this season, 3-0-1 record, but they're not going to have any more opportunities to have those 4-point games against the Bruins. And Boston obviously had a big win streak going there for a little while. It was bound to come back down to earth, and it came crashing down to earth last night with a 6-2 loss. I think they got a couple of garbage time goals in that loss against the Dallas Stars. So yeah, that's a team that you have to look at as one that could be falling out of contention, or at least that's the hope if you're an Ottawa Senators fan. The Senators finish up their road trip tomorrow in Nashville. But what did you like best about last night's game?
I mean, you got to look at James Reimer, Ross, the goaltending. That's been the number one issue for the Ottawa Senators. We've been talking about it daily on our podcast episode, on the postcast, during the live watch parties. It's impossible to ignore when it's been such a Achilles heel for this team. And James Reimer looked great last night. 21 saves on 22 shots. The one goal he allowed, sure, you don't love to see that a trend of high glove goals are going in on him, but a good shot by Sean Monahan there. And then he shuts the door the rest of the game, making a couple big saves, including a couple good one-timer saves on Zach Werenski, a guy who's absolutely on fire point-wise for the Blue Jackets. So if we can get this type of goaltending consistently, I don't care if it's from James Reimer or anyone else. It doesn't matter who's in net. We just need average goaltending, and I think this team can be successful.
Yeah, 911 save percentage for Reimer now through those 2 games. He's got a 1-0-1 record. You mentioned the high glove. 3 of the 5 goals he's allowed have gone high glove over him. But yes, the rebound control, the lateral movement, the way he's battling. One thing I don't need to see more from James Reimer, though, is playing the puck. I mean, it's a bit of an adventure every time he goes back there.
And that's to be expected, Ross, with a goalie that hasn't played much and is on a new team. It takes time for the goalie and the defenseman group to have a working communication on how they're going to play the puck, to understand each other's tendencies and things like that. So, I mean, it wasn't great that led to the first goal, but also it wasn't like an egregious misplay of the day type move either.
No, it was just one where he put his defenseman, Thomas Chabot, in a pretty bad spot.
Yeah. And look, if that's the one mistake you're going to make in a 4-1 win, we'll take that at this point, Ross.
It was a more low event game. You look at the shot totals, 22-21, but that feels like the type of game Ottawa needs to play right now. Like, you don't need to open it up and go tit for tat and trade odd man rushes. Just steady the ship. They went up 1-0 early. They gave it back right away. But then once Timmy put them up 2-1 with that highlight reel goal, just going around the perimeter. Nope, cut to the net 5-hole, and it's in. Ever since that moment, they played really well with the lead. And I think obviously you get the confidence from the goaltending, but also just the confidence in themselves is showing a lot better than it had in the past.
Ross, they had a 2-goal lead in this one, and they did not let it slip away. In fact, they added to it. They made it a 4-1 victory with that empty netter. And another important thing to note, We talk about goaltending being the Achilles heel of this team. Well, so has the penalty kill, and you go a perfect 3 for 3 on the penalty kill, and they go 0 for 3 on the power play, but that doesn't matter. And we talked about how during this stretch of 4 games that the Columbus Blue Jackets were on a win streak, the Ottawa Senators and Blue Jackets since January 11th were the top 2 teams in power play percentage, and neither team gets a power play goal here. And like you said, that leans to the Ottawa Senators' advantage because they're one of the top teams analytically 5-on-5. So if you can negate the swings of special teams play for your team and the other team and just have the 5-on-5 be the main focus here. Now they do get a goal 5-on-6, so we'll take that as well. But if you can focus on that 5-on-5 play and get good goaltending in return, this team can win games.
Yeah, it's definitely a recipe for success for the Senators. And you brought up the penalty kill, and I think there's 2 big reasons why. One, maybe we'll stop talking about the goaltending eventually, but all roads lead back to it with the way things have gone. The other one is getting that first clear off of a face-off win. The Senators won 6 of 7 face-offs while shorthanded in last night's game. And to me, that's so important because we've seen Ottawa really struggle, I'd say, in the first 10 seconds and the last 10 seconds of their penalty kill, where they're either giving up a goal right away or the second unit's out there. You're watching the clock tick down 6, 5, 4, 3, and it's in the back of the net right before the player gets out. And sometimes it's an even strength goal where the player that's in the box hasn't had a chance to get back fully in the play yet. So a lot of building blocks. We know this team can score. We know this team has the ability to tilt the ice in the offensive zone and cycle it deep and be able to maintain puck possession. But it's those swings of momentum within a game that they're struggling with. When Montreal scored that 5-4 goal, everyone in the building knew there was a strong likelihood they were going to tie it afterwards. So I think that in this game, they never allowed that momentum to swing back in Columbus's favor. That's the best part to me, is the fact that once they went up 2-1, they said, hey, yeah, we need a couple saves, but we're also going to clamp down, not give them a whole lot, and get the 2 points and hit the road. You saw the video the Sens put out right after the game, the classic Goodnight Sens fans, where they have a 5-second clip of Travis Green in the room after. But as they're skating off the ice, Brady Tkachuk looks over to James Reimer. That's a big one. That was a big one for the confidence. And now heading into Nashville, a team that was on a heater, but has now lost 2 straight games, albeit to good teams, Vegas and Buffalo, their last 2 losses. But you find a way to win there in Nashville, all of a sudden you go 2-0-1 on a road trip. You now have points in 6 games. Yes, I'm getting ahead of myself here, but you need all the confidence you can get going into the next 2 games of the Canadian Tire Center this weekend against Carolina and Vegas. You need to stack as many points as you can right now.
And Ross, the last game for Nashville up against Buffalo chased UC Saros out of the net. So it'll be interesting to see what the Nashville Predators decide to do 2 days later up against the Sens. But yeah, you need to find a way to keep this positive streak going. And you talk about kind of the momentum and the way the Sens held in there. And for me, the turning point of the game, or at least a massive part of the game, was when the Sens were on a power play. Sillinger had that full breakaway and Sanderson chased him down. And I initially thought that Reimer made that save on that spinorama play, but the replay and the tight angle of it, Jake Sanderson actually does get his stick down and he blocks that. Reimer had his pad there anyway, so he had it covered, but just a great play by Sanderson to get that block and then negate that opportunity. So that was huge, because if he scores that when the Sens are on the power play and that makes it a 2-1 game, whew, that would have changed things.
Yeah, it would have changed everything. And shout out to Sanderson. I mean, he was skating the other way when the puck was turned over. And for him to be able to get back on there and force that tough play for Sillinger, I mean, that's just an outstanding elite play from the Ottawa Senators. The other 2 lottery boys had a fun moment at the end of this game. Brady Tkachuk causes the turnover at the defensive blue line for Ottawa and gets the puck to Timmy. And it would have been as easy as 1, 2, 3 for Timmy to put that one in the back of the net. But instead, he makes sure that his captain gets a cookie. I love to see that. That's the bromance, the camaraderie that you want in your team.
Yeah, I mean, Timmy already had his goal there. But I will correct you, Ross. I want to give credit to Ridley Greig on that play, because Go back and watch. Ridley Greig makes a diving play at the boards and swings his stick to knock that puck out of there. And then Brady takes it and transitions up the ice. So Ridley Greig deserves a lot of credit there, because that's an aggressive play that sets it up and ices the game there. And yeah, if you're Timmy, you're passing that puck over to Brady and you're letting him get that one.
Yeah, I mean, it was 2020 vision, because Jake Sanderson gets the first stick on it at the hash marks, gets it up, and Ridley Greig then makes that diving play. Brady gives it to Timmy, another 2020 draft pick, and then they go all the way. I was so happy and a little bit nervous that Brady was going to try to give it back to Timmy again.
No,
I was like, don't do it.
Oh my God, that would have been crazy.
Yeah. But hey, great to see for Brady Tkachuk. By the way, the doubters of Brady Tkachuk have been very quiet of late. There's still, obviously, I feel like, another level that Brady can get to, but he leads the Ottawa Senators in points per 60 minutes since he got back, and they're just stacking right now for him. And one thing that we hadn't seen a whole lot from Brady this season, especially after the injury, more so after the injury, not that he played a whole lot before, but he had a hit in this game behind the opposition net where he just tracked and absolutely crunched the Columbus defenseman. Those are the types of plays you love to see.
And Ross, speaking of Brady Tkachuk's injury, if you remember, that was against the Nashville Predators, Roman Josi.
Oh, right.
Do you think that will carry on any sort of animosity moving forward? I don't know. It's tough when it's a respected player like Josi, but Brady was furious about that play. I mean, as he should be. It was a dangerous play there, but I wonder if we'll see anything carry over from that. I'm going to guess not. It's so long ago, and these two teams aren't exactly rivals, but
yeah, I think if you have a chance to rock them, you do, but I don't think you go out of your way.
Good luck rocking Roman Josi.
Yeah, rocking Roman Josi. That'd be a good stage name.
Yeah, head to the Nashville bars. Hello, Nashville. We're rocking Roman Josi.
Rockin' Romans, new bar in Broadway.
Nice.
Rockin'
I like it.
Romans. Put that right next to all the other great spots. I've never actually been in Nashville. That's got to be on the list.
It's on the list. Yep.
Got to be. Hey, maybe we get to Bridgestone Arena one of these days.
We better get going if we're going to make it for Thursday's game.
No. This will be a couple of years down the road. We've also got Vancouver circled, waiting for the schedule for next year. Unfortunately, it didn't work out this year, but we are looking to get to the Canadian Tire Center. Yes. Unconfirmed, but those mid-March Saturday, Sunday back-to-back. You know we love a good Saturday, Sunday back-to-back for the Ottawa Senators, and they got Anaheim on Saturday, March 14th, San Jose on March 15th. Do you think that will be, questioned from the citizens, though, as like, how college teams, they get criticized for hand-picking their opponents? If we go back-to-back seasons coming in when San Jose's there?
If we do, Ross, it's unfair because both the Anaheim Ducks and San Jose Sharks are in playoff spots.
Okay, right, there you go.
These are playoff teams. So.
What would they be? Dead last in the Atlantic?
Actually, yes. They would be tied for dead last with the Ottawa Senators with 53 points.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, man. Okay, great. Well, speaking of the Ottawa Senators and their 5-game point streak, they're now 3-0-2 in their last 5 games. There's one player in particular that we need to discuss, and that is Ridley Greig. That's coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen on other sites, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who actually check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed.
Today's podcast is also brought to you by our friends over at the GLEBE Central Pub. If you're looking for a place that lives and breathes hockey, the GLEBE Central Pub is the spot for you. It's right in the heart of Glebe, just steps from Lansdowne. It's the perfect place to catch every game, every night, with great food and beverage and even better company. They got something going on almost every night of the week. You can start your week with Wing Day every Monday, all day and all night, trivia on Tuesday, open mic night on Wednesday, Thursday, cheap tacos, and of course, live music every Saturday night. No cover ever. They've also got the GLEBE Central Pub Sens Shuttle going to and from the CTC. The bus leaves an hour and 15 minutes before the game, and then we'll bring you right back to the pub afterwards. So go support the boys this weekend. $18 round trip. Carolina game on Saturday, Vegas game on Sunday. They've also got tickets available right now on their website for Colorado's visit next Wednesday and the New Jersey Devils game on Saturday, January 31st. So head to the place where the vibes are free. It's the GCP at 779 Bank Street, and let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. All right, Pillsy. So the Ottawa Senators feeling good about their game, and for many, they're thinking, hey, well, it's very nice to see the Senators playing well, but their spot in the standings hasn't really changed. They're 8th in the wild card race out of 10 teams, and before this whole streak, they were 9th. Only the New York Rangers have fallen behind, and that they have. They are actually 5 points back now of the Ottawa Senators and 3 points back of the Columbus Blue Jackets after another loss last night for them against the LA Kings. But Pillsy, there is some good news. Our good friend Tyler at Defense Minister on Twitter, he's been tracking this. In the last 8 days, the Ottawa Senators have gained 1 point on the Sabres and the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2 points on the Bruins, the Penguins, the Blue Jackets, the Hurricanes, and the Devils, 3 points on the Habs, 4 points on the Red Wings and Islanders. They've gained 5 points in the last 8 days against the Toronto Maple Leafs and 6 points on the Rangers, Panthers, Flyers, and Capitals. So you are closing the gap despite the fact the standings don't necessarily show that with positioning yet.
And that's what happens when you go on a 5-game point streak. Like, again, disappointed by how the weekend went, but you're at least able to salvage 2 points in 2 games. You get half the points available there. So that's big. And if the Ottawa Senators can continue on this clip, and keep in mind, Ross, most teams are dealing with some injuries or major injuries. The Ottawa Senators forward group and defense group fully healthy. So you got to take advantage of that clean bill of health and keep this rolling here.
Yeah, well said. And a part of that is slotting people in the right position. And the beneficiary of that has been Ridley Greig. Ridley Greig is on an absolute heater. 6 points in his last 4 games right now. Incredible to see. But if you even extend that, Pillsy, he had a stretch of 11 games where he had 2 assists, no goals. The last of that was our boots on the ground game in Winnipeg. But since December 15th, I put the 18th on the graphic because that was the first game that they played after it. He's got 13 points in 17 games. That includes 5 goals, 8 assists, 31 shots on goal, 30 penalty minutes. Because you remember he had that, the fight was the game before this against Minnesota. So doesn't include that. Maybe you want the Pims down a touch, but you look at it overall for Ridley Greig, it's just been such a rise for him. So my question to you, is this an extended heater with a bigger opportunity playing in the top 6? Or are we seeing the first round pick from 6 years ago taking a step into being a full-time top 6 option for the Ottawa Senators?
Am I allowed to say a bit of both?
Fence sitter.
Big time fence sitter here. Because obviously when you get to play on a line with Dylan Cousins and Brady Tkachuk, as opposed to being on a 4th line or that 3rd line, we love their ability, but obviously you're getting less ice time, and usually up against harder competition because Travis Green likes to put them up against other teams' top lines. And you're not playing with the same offensive caliber players as Brady Tkachuk and Dylan Cousins. So yes, he's taking advantage of this opportunity, playing with better players and in a top six role. But also, I do think this bodes well for his opportunity to develop into a top six guy, which I'll admit I've kind of been firmly on the side of, at best, Ridly Greig is a middle six guy, more likely a third line player for his potential ceiling, I guess is how I would describe it. But Ridly Greig, his career high in points was last season with 34, and right now in 44 games, 7 goals, 15 assists for 22 points. So I don't think it's that crazy to think he could get 13 more points in the remainder of the season and pass his season high. That was one, Ross, when we did our holiday episode of Wish List. We wanted Ridly Greig to pass his season high in points, and both of us were kind of like, this might be the unrealistic one of all our goals here. But if Ridly Greig can continue on this pace, it's looking more and more realistic.
And it is worth noting, too, because I brought up his penalty minutes and did say, like, you'd like a couple less. He has had a minor penalty in each of the last 2 games. Last night's was ridiculous, by the way. He basically
insane.
Got bullied by Mathieu Olivier. And probably a smart business decision from Ridly Greig not to drop the gloves with Olivier.
Yeah, definitely. But I said on the stream and the postcast, Ross, he got a 2 minutes for a roughing with the lips, like, because he was just chirping Olivier, and I said it too, Ross, and you know this, that sly smile that Ridly Greig has just pisses people off. And in the live watch party, Ross, Sens fans came up with a new nickname for Ridly Greig. I don't know if you heard this on the postcast. I want to get your opinion on this. How about the Wasp for Ridly Greig? Just a small, annoying, pesky guy. You're just swatting away. He's pissing you off, even though he hasn't touched you. He's just around you. And then once in a while, he'll sting you, and you'll feel that one. So I actually kind of like the Wasp for Ridly Greig.
Yeah, I actually like that too. And it is worth noting that all of the other 30 penalty minutes came in 2 games. He had 14 PIMs in the 6-2 win against Boston and got tossed out of the Colorado game as well. I think he had a little two-hander in that one. So, no, discipline has not been an issue with Ridly Greig. We're more looking at David Perron, Nick Cousins when we're talking about wanting to maybe stay a little bit more disciplined within a game. But Ridly Greig, to me, has been one of the bright spots for the Ottawa Senators, because you're right. Yeah, we had him as the third line guy. Hey, it fits in well with Pinto and Mattia. That's a great third line. But now all of a sudden, like, this line with Dylan Cousins and Brady Tkachuk, like that's a heavy line. Like, that's a really nice trio. So I'm hoping that line actually gets some decent runway here. In 33 minutes together at 5-on-5, they've scored 3 goals and allowed none. And that, to me, is the biggest one, because we know that Brady Tkachuk's not going to be a Selke winner anytime in his career. And we know that Dylan Cousins has had bad luck with save percentage as well as a few defensive inconsistencies. But for those 2 guys paired with Ridly Greig to all of a sudden be a shutdown option, like, look at them. They were out there with the goalie pulled last night with Brady and Ridly making good defensive plays. So I know they swapped in Timmy instead of Dylan Cousins on that in that situation. But man, this could be a real nice line. And then that opens up the fact that you've got an option now on the third line to go back to the Amadio Pinto Giroux line that's been so successful. And you got the ringers on the fourth line. So of course, they're not going to stay healthy for the entire season, but it is a really good sign here that out of all the players, because it had been David Perron in the past who was in the top 6, and Giroux had moved up in his opportunity. We still probably want to see more from Fabian Zetterlund offensively in the top 6, but you're now in a spot where it's looking pretty good for the Ottawa Senators, but it could always be better. And on the other side, we will discuss if Steve Staios should be as aggressive as San Jose, as aggressive as Vegas, making moves here before the Olympics. And with those 2 players, Rasmus Andersson and Kiefer Sherwood, already on the move, 2 players that had different levels of connection to the Ottawa Senators, is that a bit of a hand tip to what Steve Staios is looking for to improve his team? Those conversations are next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are here. Championship round coming up this weekend, and FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. Because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. Each game day, you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts, usually parlay profit boost or no sweat token, so you can apply the bets you like the most. Open up your profit boost pack first thing on game day, see what boosts you like. The boost will let you lean into your game day instincts that give you more juice on the bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new. Every play feels bigger, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. Just 4 teams left. In this one, in the NFL, you make your picks, then apply your profit boost and go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs keep rolling. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day.
Thank you for making Locked On Senators your first listen and the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network. We want to thank everybody for helping us be the #1 show on the NHL channel here at Locked On for another consecutive year. You already make us your team every day, so make it official. Go ad-free. You can get ad-free content, all of our episodes without the ads, for just $5 a month or $50 per year to join, and also get a free membership into our members only Discord. You can go to lockedonsenators.supercast.com to learn more. All right, Pillsy. So the Ottawa Senators next on the ice tomorrow for a morning skate against the Nashville Predators. It's a Central Time game, so it's an 8 o'clock start out east. And today is just an activation, off-ice activation for the Ottawa Senators. So if there is any news coming out of that, you can head over to Twitter at Sens Central or lockedon.senators on Instagram to learn more. But the big story heading into tomorrow is, of course, whether or not Linus Ullmark will dress. Yesterday on the show, we talked about his very open, honest, and raw interview with Claire Hanna. Of course, we highly recommend that you go check out that interview in its entirety. I know they played a couple of clips on it during intermission last night, but that's one where you should watch the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's 26 minutes long, so Linus gets into a lot of what's been going on with him lately, and just shed some more light on the importance of mental health and being strong enough to talk about it and get the proper help and support when you need it.
We will see what's next in Linus Ullmark's road to recovery and his road to rejoining the Senators in a game situation. But for now, let's talk about some off-ice around the National Hockey League, and that is the trade market. We've seen a couple trades in the last week. It started on January 18th, and no disrespect to Jeffrey Viel, who got traded for a 4th-round pick on January 16th, or a couple other minor league moves, but this one was big. The Vegas Golden Knights acquired Rasmus Andersson in exchange for Zach Whitecloud, a defensive prospect at North Dakota, Abram Weeb, and a 1st-round pick in the 2027 draft, along with a 2nd-round pick in 2028 that becomes a first if Vegas wins the Stanley Cup this season. Then, the next day, it was San Jose that acquired Kiefer Sherwood from the Vancouver Canucks, getting the forward in exchange for a defensive prospect, Cole Clayton, and 2 2nd-round picks, one from this upcoming draft and one from 2027. My first question to you is, what do you think about the prices that are being thrown out for a pair of rentals? Neither of Rasmus Andersson or Kiefer Sherwood are signed beyond this season.
I think it's what I expected, Ross. I don't know about you. The Kiefer Sherwood one is interesting because I think a lot of people, and probably the Vancouver Canucks, expected to get a 1st-round pick for him. But the injury is just so unfortunate if you're a Canucks fan looking to get a higher return. But 2 2nd-round picks is pretty decent for a rental guy that's having a big year. And then Rasmus Andersson, that conversation really shifted, according to Elliot Friedman, when he decided, look, I'm not going to sign an extension anywhere, which I think is a smart move because, like, he could get a boatload of cash in the open market this free agency, and then he gets to pick and be choosy about all the details, place, team that he wants to go to. So I'm not surprised by it, and the Ottawa Senators should not have been in on either of these trades with no extensions and the prices that were paid.
So what should Steve Staios be in on right now? Because he had been connected at different times to both of those players, but it sounded like with Rasmus Andersson specifically, they weren't comfortable bringing in a guy who had no intention of re-signing with the Senators. Is a player with term something that Steve Staios might be looking at more closely?
In my opinion, you absolutely cannot be looking at a rental. I'm sorry. You just can't do it because a rental is going to cost you probably only draft picks. And the Ottawa Senators don't have a lot of cap room to play with either. So a rental in this position just doesn't make sense. I think the priority should be right shot defenseman. However, I wouldn't say there's a right shot defenseman available on public trade bait boards or teams that are looking to move guys like that. So that makes it difficult. So then if you're going to do that, you can shift to a winger with term, which I would say there's 2 or 3 that I would be interested in, but I just don't know if the Senators have the assets to acquire them. And then you got to make the money work too. I know I'm party pooper pillsy with the trade proposals here, but it's the reality of the situation. And a lot of the times, guys, the Senators are going to be in on, other teams will likely be in on them as well, and they've got more ammunition and assets to outbid the Sens.
I think the perfect solution is a player that has this year and one more year on their contract.
I'd be okay with that. Yeah.
Like a guy who had been connected somewhat to Ottawa, a guy who Calgary even came out, Craig Conroy, and said, I'm not trading this player, but I can't guarantee it because people are going to be calling, and that's Blake Coleman. Like perfect, versatile, can play kind of anywhere in your lineup. He's got Stanley Cup pedigree with the Tampa Bay Lightning and is a leader on that Flames team. So it's like, if you're Craig Conroy, you're going through this rebuild, you're like, yeah, I don't want to trade him. He's a great veteran, love to have him in the room, and he signed for next year at a very reasonable $4.9 million. But if a team's offering like a first and a second or a 2 firsts, whatever the case is, like you really have to consider that. Now, I'm not saying Ottawa could pay those prices. Frankly, they can't. But it would be an intriguing player to me would be Blake Coleman. The thought I keep coming back on, because the biggest need for Ottawa, and with all due respect, it's to upgrade Nick Jensen. It's to somehow get off of Nick Jensen's salary cap at $4 million and use that plus the remaining money that you have to get a better player, because it's just unfortunate, but it hasn't worked. And I think you try to do right by Nick Jensen. Like if Minnesota is gearing up for a run, his home state, if they're trying to get more depth on the back end, maybe Ottawa even retains salary because it's just for the end of this season. Maybe you keep $1 million, keep whatever you need to be able to make the money work in a trade, because what I'm thinking might happen is a separate trade. You're not going to trade, although there is precedent. Like look at Calgary. They get the picks for Rasmus Andersson, but they also get back Zach Whitecloud, who's a very serviceable player at the NHL level. So could you add picks with Jensen to get something back? Or are you looking to flip Jensen for a pick and then use that pick in a package? What's more valuable to the team that you're trading for? But to me, I go back to a trade the Senators made in 2008 that kind of sets the precedent. I would love to see them go one-stop shop and get a defenseman and a forward in the same trade. Of course, I'm bringing it back to the trade that brought Mike Commodore and Corey Stillman to Ottawa, where you got a winger, you got a defenseman that can play, and you do it all at once. That would be the way that I would like to see Ottawa go. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen, but I'm just saying that to me would be the play. The other one too that they've done before is in 2009, they got Mike Comrie and Chris Campoli in the same trade as well. Like they've done this before, obviously different regimes long time ago, but that would be a direction I'd like to see Ottawa go.
Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal. Those trades are difficult to do, Ross, I think, because you got to make the value match going both ways. But
you know what's wild about that Campoli and Comrie trade? They gave up Dean McCammon and a first-round pick in 2009. That first-round pick still playing. Kyle Palmieri.
Oh, dang. Yeah, and he's had a nice career. Yeah, Blake Coleman was one of the guys I was looking at, Ross. I think that could make sense. 2 other guys that I think possibly could make sense. I mean, Jake DeBrusk what's the price going to be there? But that's a player that I think
I used to be higher on Jake DeBrusk. It seems like, I don't know, he missed a meeting and it was healthy scratched in Vancouver. Same kind of thing happened in Boston. I just don't know if he's the kind of guy you want to bring in the room. With all due respect, we don't know. But
yeah, I mean, obviously missing a couple meetings, not great, but there are worse character traits to have than that. And at his price point at 29, change of scenery maybe helps him. But again, like you're going to have to pay premium to get him, or a different route. A guy like Jonathan Marchessault could be interesting. Again, having a down year, but a change of scenery. Like, it's only 2 years ago, Ross, that he won the Conn Smythe and scored over 40 goals. Like,
that's crazy.
It's not that far removed, and everyone's kind of struggling in Nashville. So those are two guys that have some term and that I think could make sense. But how do you make the money work? What does it cost? All those things have to be included there. So I don't really see a clear option. I know people are going to be upset with this, Ross, but I think the smart move is to stand strong, and you gotta believe in this group now that goaltending is getting better. You hope Linus Ullmark can come back better than he was before. James Reimer adds some stability. Levi Merilainen gains his confidence back in Belleville and maybe play some more NHL games this season. Like, I just think that's the way the Ottawa Senators are going to have to go.
Yeah, I'm not with you there. Up front, I could be fine keeping it, but I really think you need to upgrade on Jensen.
Don't get it twisted, Ross. I'm with you. That's how I started this off, saying the priority is to upgrade on D. But then I followed that up with, I don't see a player available that would make sense.
Yeah, no, and that's fair, and that's the struggle here for Steve Staios. But I think you have to. I'll give you one rental, and a guy who's been linked to Ottawa at different times since 5 years left on his deal. And it's not a sexy name, highlight reel guy, but Connor Murphy with the Chicago Blackhawks, pending UFA. He's at a $4.4 million cap right now, and he is just a stabilizing, big presence, defensive defenseman, responsible. I could see him slotting in very nicely beside Thomas Chabot. You just need a low event player, because Zub's your shutdown guy, but they can move the puck as well and be really good. And then Spence is your offensive guy on the right side. So you just need a steadying presence alongside Chabot. And that was
I don't
Jensen
hate that,
last year.
Ross. He's 32 years old, only making $400K more than Nick Jensen.
Exactly.
Maybe you can find a way to assign him to a mini extension to feel better about it. But yeah, that's one I don't hate that, because I was saying too, I think a lot of people were looking at Anderson and different guys, but I don't think you need another puck-moving offensive defenseman. I think the need is a defensive, more shut-down, steady defenseman that can A, play with Chabot. That's the number one key. And B, try to help out your penalty kill. So yeah, that's a guy that could make sense.
And he would definitely do that. And another note about Connor Murphy too is, as a defensive defenseman, like, he's a guy who's going to block shots. He has 2 less blocks on the season than Artem Zub, and Zub is second on the team behind Jake Sanderson. Last season, he blocked 160 shots, had 117 hits, averaged 20 and a half minutes per game. So he's just a guy who would keep an eye on. But again, there's going to be bids coming in for him. He's going to be a guy that's going to be very much wanted around the league. And hey, maybe Chicago thinks that, look, we've done the teardown over and over again. Like, let's just try to re-sign him like they did last year with Ryan Donato, a guy whose name was heavily in trade bait boards. And then all of a sudden, boom, he signs his 4-year, I believe, extension. Funny you brought up, though, DeBrusk and Marchessault. Both guys make identical money, $5.5 million. There's 3 years on Marchessault's deal, which means 3 more years after this one. And then there's 5 more years on Jake DeBrusk. So that's where it's like, DeBrusk, that's too much commitment for a guy who's on a downswing. Like,
but if you look at, if he can get back to where he was, Ross, that 5.5 with the rising cap is going to be nothing.
I know. It's too big of a risk. I just don't see them doing that. But out of guys, TSN just did their first trade bait board on January 15th. And funny enough, they had Kiefer Sherwood 1, Rasmus Anderson 2. They've both been traded.
There we go.
The only like absolute big dog availables are Artemi Panarin. The Sens are not going to be in on Artemi Panarin. I hate to burst anybody's NHL franchise mode trade. He's not coming to Ottawa. And then after that, it's a number of centermen: Kadri, Stamkos, Elias Pettersson, Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
Stamkos can play the wing, though.
Stamkos can play the wing. He's got 2 years left at 8 sheets, though.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Yeah.
He ain't coming to Ottawa. Yeah. Dougie Hamilton ain't coming to Ottawa. $9 million price tag. That's not the answer on the blue line.
And he's having a down year.
Yeah. I think you got to go low event defenseman would be ideal. Obviously, a right shot is where you're looking as well. And the only right shot defenseman on here, pending UFA, do not, under any circumstances, bring in Luke Shen. Don't do it.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea.
Steve Staios, whatever it is, he has to upgrade, not make a lateral move just for the sake of making a move on the blue line. I would rather he stand pat versus just do something to do something. Like if you replace Nick Jensen with Luke Shen, I would actually say you're downgrading that position because at this age, Shen just can't skate the way that he once could. And it would just be brought in as like, he's got the cup experience with Tampa. He's a great professional. From all accounts, he's an absolute beauty too, like a great leader and all that, but don't do it. And plus, like, we've reached our former Leaf quota, okay?
We really have, yeah. Well, Ross, what if they're looking for a mentor for Tyler Clevin? Travis Hamnick, that worked out really good.
Yeah, you know who should be the mentor for Tyler Clevin? Jake Sanderson should be the mentor.
There we go.
I think he's a few months younger than him, but you know what?
That's like Timmy being like, yeah, he's a great kid to
Jake Lucchini.
Jake Lucchini. Yeah, he's like
7 years. We brought that up to Timmy, didn't we? When we
yeah, so good. Great kid.
So great kid. Yeah. He's an up and coming kid. And you know what? Jake Sanderson just did the same thing with Levy. Said Levy's a great kid. Levy's 1 month younger than.
Did he say kid? I think he said guy.
Oh, he said great guy. Okay,
but I don't want to let facts get in the way of a good story.
No, exactly. But you grow up quick in the NHL. Let's put it that way. And when you've got how many games is Jake Sanderson at now in the National Hockey League? He's got to be 200, 285. Nice, sick guess. But speaking of games played, Pilsy, as we move past the trade discussion, we'd love to hear your thoughts and give us names too. Who do you want the Senators to target? Would love to see some names that aren't on trade bait boards, but who do you think you could wrestle out of a certain situation? Like Ottawa did last year with Fabian Zetterlund, a guy like who are some pending RFAs that maybe don't get signed? Like, let's go into NHL franchise mode again, trade mode easy. Jason Robertson would be the absolute star, no pun intended, to go out and get, but he just changed agents, and the agent that he got, Andy Scott, people might know him. He's an Ottawa guy. He's Jacob Chikrin's agent. He's also Wyatt Johnston's agent, and he's also Mikko Rantanen's agent, and both those guys were able to get new deals with Jim Nill and the Dallas Stars. So I would be shocked, I tell you, if Jason Robertson is on the move. But let us know in the comments who you think the Senators should target if they are going to make a trade before the trade freeze comes in effect before the Olympics. One last note on that, though. Don't trade for a guy who's going to the Olympics. I don't need to worry about another health player for the Ottawa Senators while they're overseas at the Olympic Games. So save those ones for when they get back. Pilsy, speaking of games played, though, you got one last thought on this?
Yes, speaking of games played, the guys I mentioned, Ross, Jonathan Marchessault, and Jake DeBrusk, games played. One thing we need to continue to add to this roster is playoff games played. Marchessault has 102 playoff games played. How many playoff games do you think Jake DeBrusk has had?
Oh, decent
29
amount.
Years old.
But he was with the Bruins when they went to the final in 2019. So that's 20. I'll say he's played 75.
86.
Good
He went to the playoffs 7 straight years, every single year of his NHL career before being traded to the Vancouver Canucks. So that's another added bonus there.
Yeah, that is very, very good. Here's a guy who went to the playoffs once last year. Thomas Chabot, stick taps to you, sir. You are now 10th all-time in games played by an Ottawa Senator. Last night, Chabot passed Chris Kelly to get into that 10th spot, 546 games.
Okay, love it.
And Chris Kelly, don't get comfortable at number 11 because Brady's at 541. Just needs 5 games to pass Chris Kelly. Remember at one point, they were identical games played, Thomas Chabot and Brady Tkachuk, but Shabby's missed 15 games since then. Of course, Brady missed 20 earlier on this season, but Chabot's going to stay there for the rest of this season. Next up for him is Zach Smith at 9th on the Sens all-time games played list. He's played 612. So there's a little Sens history and guys moving up the ranks as we continue on here with the season. There's still more than 30 games left. There's still a lot of time to get back into the mix. I want to do the out-of-town scoreboard to end the show, Pilsy, but I did it yesterday, remember?
Yeah. Yeah, you got a little ahead of yourself there.
Way ahead of myself. So should I do tomorrow's and be like, hey, here's our cheering guide for tonight?
Well, what if, Ross, I'll give you a out-of-league scoreboard. Final thought for me, the Belleville Senators are in action tonight up against the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, who are first in their division with 55 points, so that's going to be a tough opponent for sure. However, they don't really have a lot of star power on their team. Their kind of best player is Phil Tomasino, who's at I think point per game with like 15 points in 14 games, something like that. But the real question is who's going to be in goal for that game. I think we hope it's Levi Merilainen. Hope that he can start building his confidence back. So keep an eye on that one in the AHL.
Yeah, great call, Pilsy. Love that. One note I'll give you on the out-of-town scoreboard tonight, and there are some East-West games that Sens fans will want to keep an eye on, plus an All-Atlantic Division matchup where you're cheering for the Red Wings to beat the Leafs because the Leafs are closer to the Sens in the standings. Obviously, you plug your nose doing it. Just hope it's in regulation, please, for the love of everything good. But that late night game, a team that Ottawa has climbed against the most recently is the Washington Capitals. They're in Vancouver tonight, and the Canucks are on an 11-game losing streak. They're 0-9-2 in their last 11 games, and 9 of those 11 losses are against the Eastern Conference. They need to come through for us tonight. Tonight, we are all Canucks. We're not Capitals. We're Canucks, and we need them to come through. So those are my final thoughts. Let's get some West Coast magic tonight for the out-of-town scoreboard. We'll be back tomorrow with a full game day preview, and then on Friday, Mike Kelly will join the show. We always love having Mike's thoughts from Sport Logique. It makes analytics very manageable, a nice amuse-bouche of analytics whenever Mike Kelly joins us on the show. So we're looking forward to that on Friday, heading in to a enormous weekend back-to-back on Canadian Tire Center ice. That's it for us today. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. Please subscribe on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.